The hospital staff laughed at the new nurse who jumped at every loud noise. They called her weak and useless. What they didn't know was that her shaking hands had saved dozens of Navy SEALs in war zones. Their laughter stopped when a military helicopter landed on the roof, asking for her. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. The coffee machine in the break room of St. Mary's Hospital sputtered and died at exactly 2:47 a.m. Nobody noticed except Sarah Chen, the new night shift nurse who had been standing in front of it for the past 3 minutes, staring at the empty cup in her hands. "Great," muttered Derek, one of the ER residents, pushing past her. The mouse broke the coffee machine. Perfect end to a perfect night. Sarah said nothing. She simply stepped aside, placed her empty cup on the counter, and walked back to the nurse's station. Her shoulders were hunched, her steps careful and measured, like someone walking through a minefield. "Did you see that?" Derek laughed to his colleague, Dr. Patricia Morrison. "I swear she flinches every time a door closes. How did she even pass nursing school?" Patricia glanced up from her tablet. "I heard she transferred from some VA hospital in Montana. Probably couldn't handle a real ER." Sarah heard every word. She always heard everything. But she kept her eyes down, focused on the patient charts in front of her. Her hands trembled slightly as she wrote, the pen scratching against paper in the quiet hallway. It had been like this for 6 weeks. 6 weeks of whispered jokes, of eye rolls, of assignments nobody else wanted dumped on her desk. 6 weeks of being invisible, of being the punchline, of being safe. Safe was good. Safe was necessary. Chen. The voice of Sharon, the head nurse, cut through the quiet like a knife. "Room 312 needs vitals. The patient's been waiting 20 minutes. "Yes, ma'am." Sarah's voice was barely above a whisper. "Speak up. I can't hear you." "Yes, ma'am," Sarah repeated, only slightly louder. Sharon shook her head in disgust. "I don't know what they were thinking, hiring someone like you. This is a level 1 trauma center, not a retirement home." Sarah nodded, grabbed the blood pressure cuff, and headed toward room 312. Behind her, she could hear Derek and Patricia laughing again. She focused on her breathing. In for 4 counts, hold for 4, out for 6. The therapist at the VA had taught her that. What they didn't teach her was how to forget. How to stop seeing the faces. How to stop hearing the screams. How to stop being the person she used to be. Room 312 held a 60-year-old man named Thomas who was recovering from gallbladder surgery. He smiled weakly when Sarah entered. "You're the quiet one everyone talks about," he said, not unkindly. Sarah wrapped the cuff around his arm. "Yes, sir. My daughter's quiet too. Came back from Iraq last year. Marines." Sarah's hands paused for just a fraction of a second. "How's she doing?" "Better now. Took some time." Thomas studied her face carefully. "You got that same look she had when she first came home. Like you're somewhere else." Sarah inflated the cuff, watching the numbers climb. Blood pressure's 128/82. Heart rate 74. "You're doing well, Mr. Thomas. You didn't answer my question." "I'm fine, sir." She made a note on his chart. "Is there anything else you need?" Thomas reached out and gently touched her hand. Sarah didn't pull away, but every muscle in her body tensed. "Whatever you went through," he said softly, "it doesn't define you. My daughter learned that. I hope you will too." Sarah managed a small smile. "Thank you, sir. I'll check on you in 2 hours." She left the room before the tears could start. She made it to the supply closet before they fell. 3 minutes. She allowed herself 3 minutes to remember Afghanistan, to remember the heat and the dust and the blood. To remember being someone else entirely. Then she wiped her eyes, straightened her scrubs, and went back to work. The call came at 3:15 a.m. on a Tuesday. Sarah was restocking supplies when she heard Sharon answer the phone at the nurse's station. St. Mary's Hospital, ER. This is Sharon speaking. There was a long pause. I'm sorry, can you repeat that? Sharon's voice had changed. The usual boredom was gone, replaced by confusion. You need, what? Sarah continued organizing the 4 bags, trying not to listen. Ma'am, I don't think we have anyone by that name on staff. Can you tell me what this is regarding? Another pause. The Department of Defense? Hold on, please. Sarah's hand stopped moving. The Department of Defense. Those 3 words sent ice through her veins. No. Not here. Not now. Chen. Sharon's voice was sharp. Get over here. Sarah forced herself to walk slowly to the nurse's station. Derek and Patricia were already there, looking curious. Is your first name Sarah? Sharon asked, holding the phone. Yes, ma'am. And did you ever go by any other name? Professionally? Sarah's throat went dry. Why do you ask? Because someone from the Department of Defense is on the line asking for a Captain Sarah Chen, and they say it's urgent. The floor seemed to tilt beneath Sarah's feet. Derek laughed. Captain? Our mouse. That's got to be a mistake. I'll take it, Sarah said quietly, reaching for the phone. Sharon pulled it back. If this is some kind of joke. It's not a joke. Sarah's voice was still quiet, but something in her tone made Sharon hand over the phone. Sarah pressed it to her ear. This is Sarah Chen. Captain Chen. The voice on the other end was male, professional, and tense. This is Lieutenant Commander James Wolfe, Naval Special Warfare Command. We have a situation. Sarah closed her eyes. I'm retired, Commander. I know. But we have a SEAL down, and he's asking for you specifically. The world seemed to stop. Who? Call sign Reaper. Real name Marcus Webb. Sarah's knees almost buckled. Marcus. God, not Marcus. What happened? Her voice was steadier now, the shake gone. Training accident. Parachute malfunction. He came down hard. Multiple injuries including suspected spinal trauma. He's stable but critical, and he refuses to let anyone touch him except you. Commander, I haven't practiced military medicine in 18 months. There are dozens of qualified. He asked for you by name, Captain. He's at Naval Base Kitsap, 40 minutes from your location. We have a helicopter inbound to your hospital right now. ETA 8 minutes. Sarah looked at the clock on the wall. 3:17 a.m. Behind her, she could hear Derek whispering to Patricia. This has to be fake. There's no way she's a captain. I'm a civilian now, Sarah said into the phone. I can't just leave my shift. With respect, Captain, we're not asking. A Navy SEAL specifically requested you. The helicopter is already airborne. We need you to be on the roof in 7 minutes. The line went dead. Sarah stood there for a moment, phone in hand, trying to process what had just happened. 18 months. 18 months of hiding, of being invisible, of pretending to be someone small and scared. And now Marcus needed her. What was that about? Sharon demanded. Sarah carefully placed the phone back on its cradle. I need to go to the roof. Excuse me. There's a helicopter coming. I need to be on the roof in 6 minutes. Derek burst out laughing. Okay, this is the best prank I've seen in years. Who put you up to this? Was it the day shift? Sarah ignored him and started walking toward the stairwell that led to the roof. Chen. Sharon's voice was furious. If you leave this floor, you're fired. Do you understand me? Sarah paused at the stairwell door. For a moment, she was torn. This job was her cover, her shield, her safe place. If she walked through that door, everyone would know. The mouse would disappear. The ghost would return. But Marcus was hurt. Marcus, who had carried her 3 miles through enemy territory when she took a bullet to the leg. Marcus, who had joked with her about terrible military coffee while they waited for evacuation. Marcus, who had cried when she told him she was leaving the service. She pushed open the door and started climbing. Behind her, she heard Derek say, "She's actually going. This is insane. Someone call security," Sharon ordered. "She's having some kind of breakdown." Sarah climbed faster. 2 floors. 3. Her legs burned, but she didn't slow down. 4 floors. 5. She burst through the roof access door into the cold night air. The roof of St. Mary's Hospital was empty except for the helipad, marked with a large white H and ringed with lights. Sarah walked to the center and waited, her breath forming small clouds in the freezing air. She could hear the helicopter before she saw it. The distinctive thump-thump-thump of rotor blades cutting through the night. Then she saw the lights, red and green, descending from the darkness. It wasn't a standard medical helicopter. This was military, a UH-60 Black Hawk, matte gray, no markings except a small American flag on the tail. It descended with practiced precision, the rotor wash whipping Sarah's hair around her face and making her scrubs snap like flags. The moment the skids touched down, the side door slid open. A man in full combat gear jumped out, weapon across his chest, scanning the rooftop with night vision goggles pushed up on his helmet. "Captain Chen," he shouted over the noise of the rotors. "Yes. I'm Petty Officer Rodriguez. We need to move now." Sarah ran toward the helicopter. Rodriguez grabbed her arm and helped her into the cabin. Before she was even seated, the Black Hawk was lifting off again. Inside the helicopter were 3 other men in combat gear. They all stared at her with a mixture of respect and relief. One of them, a massive man with a thick beard, held out his hand. "Captain Chen. I'm Chief Petty Officer Larson. We served with Reaper in Afghanistan. He talks about you all the time." Sarah shook his hand. "What's his condition?" Larson's expression darkened. "Bad. He came down hard on a training jump. Landed on rocky terrain. Both legs broken, possible spinal fracture, internal bleeding. The docs at Kitsap are good, but when he woke up and found out you were in the area, he wouldn't let anyone operate. Said only you touch him." "That's insane," Sarah said. "I'm not even licensed for surgery anymore." "You're still the best combat surgeon the Navy ever had," Larson replied. "Reaper knows it. We all know it." Sarah looked out the window as the hospital fell away below them. She could see tiny figures on the roof access door, probably security, wondering what the hell just happened. "How long until we reach Kitsap?" she asked. 12 minutes at this speed." Sarah closed her eyes. 12 minutes to prepare. 12 minutes to remember everything she had tried to forget. "Tell me everything," she said. "From the beginning." Naval Base Kitsap was chaos when they arrived. The Black Hawk landed on a brightly lit pad next to the base hospital. Before the rotors even stopped, medical personnel were rushing toward them. Sarah jumped out, hitting the ground running. A woman in Navy fatigues met her at the door. "Captain Chen. I'm Commander Lisa Park, Chief of Surgery. Thank God you're here." "Where is he?" "Trauma Bay 2. "But Captain, I need to brief you." "Brief me on the way." They ran through the corridors, Park talking rapidly. 28-year-old male, SEAL Team 3. Parachute malfunction during a halo jump. Fell approximately 80 feet onto rocky terrain. Bilateral femur fractures, suspected L3, L4 vertebral fracture, possible ruptured spleen. He's stable for now but deteriorating. BP 90/60 and dropping. We need to get him to surgery immediately, but he's been fighting us. They burst through the doors of the trauma bay. Marcus Webb lay on the table, his face pale and covered in sweat. His legs were immobilized, and he had an oxygen mask over his face. 2 nurses were trying to start another 4-line, but he kept pushing their hands away with his good arm. "Get away!" he gasped through the mask. "Marcus!" Sarah's voice cut through the chaos. His eyes snapped open. When he saw her, relief flooded his face. "Sarah, you came." She moved to his side, taking his hand. "Of course I came, you idiot. What did you do?" "Bad landing." He tried to smile. "Told you. I'd find you, wherever you were hiding. Save your strength." Sarah turned to Commander Park. "I need his charts. All of them. Imaging, blood work, everything." Park hesitated. "Captain, with all due respect, you're not currently licensed." "I know. But he won't let you operate, and he's going to die if someone doesn't work on him in the next 30 minutes. So either you can waste time arguing with me, or you can get me those charts and prep an ore." Park looked at Marcus, who nodded weakly. "Only Sarah." "Damn it," Park muttered. "Fine. But I'm scrubbing in with you. If the Navy asks, we did this together. Deal. Now move." The next 10 minutes were a blur. Sarah reviewed the X-rays and CT scans while the ore was prepped. The vertebral fracture was her biggest concern. It was unstable, pressing dangerously close to the spinal cord. The leg fractures were bad but manageable. The internal bleeding was the immediate threat. She scrubbed in, the familiar ritual bringing back memories she had buried deep. The smell of antiseptic. The feel of the surgical brush on her skin. The weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. In the ore, Marcus was already under anesthesia. Sarah stood over him, scalpel in hand, and for a moment, she was back in Afghanistan. Back in the field hospital. Back when every surgery was life or death and there was no time for doubt. "Ready, Captain?" Park asked from across the table. Sarah took a deep breath. "Ready. Let's save his life." 4 hours later, Sarah emerged from the ore exhausted but triumphant. Marcus was alive. The surgery had been complicated, repairing the ruptured spleen, stabilizing the vertebral fracture, setting the leg bones, but successful. She found Chief Larson waiting in the hallway, along with 5 other SEALs from Marcus's team. "How is he?" Larson asked immediately. "He's going to make it. The spinal cord isn't damaged, so he should have full mobility once he heals. But it's going to be a long recovery." The relief in the room was palpable. One of the younger SEALs, barely 25, had tears in his eyes. "Thank you, ma'am. Reaper, he's like a brother to us." Sarah nodded. "He's strong. He'll pull through." "Captain Chen." Commander Park appeared in the doorway of the surgical wing. "Can I have a word?" Sarah followed her into a small office. Park closed the door and leaned against it, studying Sarah carefully. "That was some of the best surgical work I've ever seen," Park said quietly. "Where did you learn to work that fast?" "Afghanistan. When you're operating under fire with limited supplies, you learn to move quickly. I read your file while you were in surgery. Or what's left of it. Most of it is classified." Park crossed her arms. 3 years as a combat surgeon attached to SEAL Team 3. 12 combat deployments. You operated in the field more than any surgeon in Navy history. You have a Silver Star and 2 Purple Hearts. And then 18 months ago, you just disappeared." Sarah looked away. "I retired." "Why?" "That's personal." Captain, I saw the way you handled yourself in there. You're one of the best surgeons I've ever worked with. Why are you hiding in some civilian hospital, pretending to be a timid night nurse? Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Finally, she said, because I was tired of watching people die. But you save lives. Not all of them. Sarah's voice was barely above a whisper. Not enough of them. Park nodded slowly. I understand. But for what it's worth, you saved one tonight. And that matters. Thank you, Commander. There's something else. Park pulled out her phone and showed Sarah a text message. This came through about an hour ago. It's from the Chief of Naval Operations. Sarah read the message. Her eyes widened. Captain Chen, your actions tonight exemplify the highest traditions of naval service. We formally request your return to active duty as Chief of Surgical Services for Naval Special Warfare. Your country needs you. They want you back, Park said. And between you and me, they should. You're wasted in civilian medicine. Sarah handed back the phone. I'll think about it. Don't think too long. The world needs more people like you. Sarah didn't return to St. Mary's Hospital that night. She stayed at Kitsap, watching over Marcus as he came out of anesthesia. When he finally woke up, groggy and confused, the first thing he saw was her sitting beside his bed. Sarah. His voice was rough. You stayed. Of course I stayed, you dramatic idiot. What kind of surgeon leaves before checking on her patient? He managed a weak smile. I knew, you'd come. Told Larson, you always come when someone needs you. Yeah, well, you're lucky I was close by. Not luck. Marcus's eyes were serious despite the pain medication. I've been, keeping tabs on you. Made sure they knew, where you were. Just in case. Sarah's throat tightened. You've been watching me. Someone has to. You can't just, disappear. Not someone like you. I'm not that person anymore, Marcus. Yes, you are. He reached for her hand with his good arm. You'll always be that person. It's who you are. Tonight proved it. Sarah wanted to argue, but she couldn't. Because he was right. The moment she heard someone needed help, the moment she saw Marcus on that table, she had stopped being the mouse and become the surgeon again. Effortlessly. Naturally. Rest, she said softly. We'll talk about this when you're better. Promise me, you'll think about coming back. Marcus. Promise me, Sarah. She sighed. I'll think about it. Now sleep. He closed his eyes, a small smile on his face. Within minutes, he was asleep. Sarah sat there for a long time, watching him breathe. Around her, the naval hospital hummed with activity. This place felt right in a way St. Mary's never had. These people, the corpsmen, the doctors, the SEALs, they understood. They knew what it meant to serve. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Captain Chen, this is Sharon from St. Mary's. You're fired. Don't bother coming back. Sarah stared at the message for a moment, then deleted it. She wasn't going back anyway. The sun was rising when Sarah finally left Marcus's room. She walked out onto a balcony overlooking the Puget Sound, breathing in the salt air. The water was dark and calm, reflecting the orange and pink sky. Beautiful, isn't it? Sarah turned to find Commander Park standing beside her, 2 cups of coffee in hand. She offered one to Sarah. Thank you, Sarah said, taking it. They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sun climb higher. I heard from St. Mary's, Park said eventually. They fired you. Yeah. Sorry. I'm not. Sarah took a sip of coffee. It was terrible, just like all military coffee, but somehow that made it perfect. I didn't belong there anyway. So where do you belong? Sarah looked back through the window at Marcus sleeping peacefully, surrounded by his team who had refused to leave his side. She thought about the surgery, about the feeling of doing what she was meant to do. She thought about all the people who still needed help, all the SEALs who went into danger knowing someone like her would be there if things went wrong. I don't know yet, she said honestly. But I think I'm starting to figure it out. Park smiled. The offer stands, you know. We need you. The teams need you. I know. Think about it. I will. They finished their coffee in silence as the sun continued to rise, painting the sky in brilliant colors. Sarah felt something shift inside her, like a locked door finally opening. For 18 months, she had been hiding. Running. Pretending to be someone small and invisible. But tonight, she had remembered who she really was. And maybe, just maybe, that wasn't something to run from anymore. 2 weeks later, Sarah Chen walked into the office of the Chief of Naval Operations in Washington, D.C. She wore her dress uniform for the first time in 18 months. The silver oak leaves on her shoulders gleamed under the fluorescent lights. The CNO, a 4-star admiral named Richards, stood when she entered. Captain Chen. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the invitation, sir. They sat. Richards folded his hands on his desk. I'll get straight to the point. We want you back. Not just as a surgeon, but as the head of our entire combat medical program. You'd be training the next generation of military surgeons, developing new protocols, and yes, occasionally operating when needed. That's a significant responsibility, sir. You've proven you can handle it. Your record speaks for itself. He slid a folder across the desk. This is our offer. Take a look. Sarah opened the folder. The terms were generous, more than generous. But it wasn't about money. It had never been about money. Sir, can I ask you a question? Of course. Why me? There are other qualified surgeons. Richards leaned back in his chair. Do you know why Marcus Webb specifically requested you? We served together. He trusted me. It's more than that. Richards pulled out another folder, this one marked classified. I probably shouldn't show you this, but I want you to understand the impact you've had. He opened it. Inside were testimonials from dozens of SEALs, Rangers, and other special operations personnel. Sarah recognized some of the names. Others were redacted. Richards read from one, Captain Chen operated on me under fire in Kandahar. She saved my life while rockets were landing 50 meters away. She never hesitated, never panicked. She's the reason I came home to my kids. He read another, there's a saying in the teams, if you can make it to Chen, you'll live. She was our guardian angel. And another, I've served with a lot of doctors. Captain Chen is the only one I'd trust with my life without question. Sarah felt tears burning in her eyes. She had thought she was just doing her job. She hadn't realized how much it meant to them. These men and women believe in you, Captain, Richard said softly. They need you. Your country needs you. The question is, are you ready to come back? Sarah looked at the testimonials again. She thought about Marcus, recovering in Kitsap. She thought about all the others who would need help in the future. She thought about hiding in St. Mary's, pretending to be someone she wasn't. She thought about Mr. Thomas, the patient who had told her that what happened to her didn't define her. He was right. But what she chose to do next, that would define her. Sarah closed the folder and looked Admiral Richards in the eye. When do I start, sir? Richards smiled. Welcome back, Captain. Let's get to work. The training facility at Naval Special Warfare Center in Coronado was packed with students, the next generation of combat medics and surgeons. They sat at attention as Sarah walked to the front of the classroom. She wore her uniform with pride now. The silver star ribbon on her chest caught the light. Behind her, a screen displayed a chaotic combat scene. "Good morning," she said, her voice strong and clear. "I'm Captain Sarah Chen. For the next 6 months, I'm going to teach you how to save lives in the worst conditions imaginable. Some of you think you're here to learn how to put on bandages and start IVs. You're wrong." She clicked to the next slide, a diagram of human anatomy. "You're here to learn how to keep people alive when everything around you is trying to kill them. You're here to learn how to operate with mortars falling outside your tent. You're here to learn how to make impossible decisions with limited resources and no time." She looked at each student in turn. Some looked scared. Good. They should be. Some of you will fail this course. Some of you will quit. But those who make it through will be part of an elite group of medical professionals who operate at the tip of the spear. You'll be the guardian angels for the people who run toward danger while everyone else runs away. She paused, letting that sink in. "I was where you are once. Scared, uncertain, wondering if I could do it. I'm here to tell you that you can. But it won't be easy. Nothing worth doing ever is." A hand raised in the back. A young Navy corpsman, barely 20 years old. "Ma'am, is it true you operated in the back of a moving helicopter under fire?" Sarah smiled. "It's true. And by the end of this course, you'll know how to do it too." Another hand. "Ma'am, they say you disappeared for over a year. Why did you come back?" Sarah considered the question carefully. "I came back because I realized something important. You can't run from who you are. I tried to hide, to be someone different, someone smaller. But when people needed help, I couldn't ignore it. This is who I am. This is what I do. And I'm done apologizing for it." She turned back to the screen. "Now, let's begin. Open your textbooks to Chapter 1. By the end of today, you'll be able to perform a field cricothyrotomy with a ballpoint pen and a pocket knife. By the end of the week, you'll be able to do it blindfolded." The students scrambled for their books. Sarah watched them with satisfaction. This was where she belonged. Not hiding in some civilian hospital, flinching at loud noises and avoiding eye contact. But here, training the next generation, making sure that when someone needed help, there would be people ready and able to provide it. The mouse was gone. The ghost had returned. But she wasn't a ghost anymore, she was a guardian angel, and she had work to do. Behind her, through the classroom window, she could see the ocean stretching to the horizon. Somewhere out there, special operations teams were training, preparing for missions that would put them in harm's way. And when they went, they would know that people like Sarah had their backs. She smiled and turned back to her students. "Let's get to work.